G'day. Now, it's an unfortunate aspect of being a trombonist that at some point in your musical life you are going to experience the embarrassment of having your slide come flying off the end of your instrument. It is something that you never plan for it to happen, but when it does happen, it is always rather embarrassing. And if you've got a particularly expensive instrument, it can be very expensive. Fortunately, it's never happened to me whilst marching, but I have heard many good stories about trombonists which in a brass band configuration lead the march, whose trombone, their slides will go flying off the ends in a fit of exuberance, only to be trodden on by those who come after. It's something that's always very embarrassing. Thankfully, that particular situation hasn't happened to me, but I have lost a couple of slides whilst practicing, never in a performance that I can immediately recall. Now, one of the people who have commented on my videos mentioned that one way that he gets around this is to tie a bit of fish gut or similar nylon line to his trombone slide so that it physically can't go off the end. How that works is that you would tie a knot of line to one end and that you would have it at a specific length so that when it was tied at this end, the slide couldn't go physically any further. Now, for this to work, you need a long loop of line that, when the trombone slide is in its closed position, is going to hang down in a big festoon. So I spent a little bit of time firstly marveling at how simple and perfect a solution that was, but secondly I spent a little bit of time thinking, well, it's a little bit clumsy, we can make that better. One of the alternatives I came up was a metal bar that would extend down here and prevent the slide coming off the end, similar to something that they have quite a lot in trumpets, where the third valve tuning slide can't go flying off the end. It's got a little screw that stops it from proceeding beyond whatever limit you set. But something even simpler came into my mind. Now, here in New Zealand, and I presume all over the world, we use things like these. And they're used a lot by people who carry access cards or RFID chips on them. You clip one end to your belt and you clip your access card to the other, so that if you're in a building that has controlled access doors, instead of having to open a wallet, get a card out, or have some other arrangement with carrying your access cards around, you instead just yank on this, it extends from your belt and you gain access in a much more convenient fashion. Now, a device like this could be adapted for use on the trombone. The immediate downside, though, is that is a little bit loud. It would be assumed that it'll be quieter than the sound of your instrument, and it's also assumed that in a marching environment this sound is not going to be particularly invasive, but it is a tool that trombonists can use to ensure that the slide doesn't fly off the end, with the added advantage of maintaining a compact size when the slide is in a closed position. Now, to keep this demonstration somewhat simple and straightforward, what I'm simply going to do is take this loop, which would normally be attached to a carabiner where I have would normally have about 3 or 4 access cards on. I'm going to slip it under my mouthpiece like this, and then I'm simply going to duct tape this end to my slide at the appropriate length. I've now completed that exercise. I've got this loop on one end stretched over my mouthpiece, and I have the other end of this retractable key holder duct taped to my slide. Naturally, if this was to be a permanent addition to my instrument, I wouldn't use duct tape. I'd do something a little bit more elaborate, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm using duct tape. Now, what this means is that when the slide moves, you can see that this key fold this mechanism extends with the slide as well. There's a little bit of retractive force there, so if I had a slide that was properly lubricated, it would retract quite smoothly, as you can sort of see a bit here. But what it means is that I can't move the slide past a predefined point. I can't lose the slide off the end here. I can throw it and it's just going to hit the end without going for miles. Now, that goes against everything I've ever done as a trombonist. That feels so weird, trying to lose the slide off the end. But that is a method that you might feel is appropriate to adopt if you're in a marching environment, or you have a learner, or you have somebody who is not quite comfortable with their instrument, who has the habit of losing their slide. This might be an appropriate method in the short term to correcting that issue. With my piccolo trombone, I've shown in many videos how the biggest failing with this is that its propensity for losing its slide. What I've done is I've taken the same access card, I've wound it around here many times to shorten the length of it, and it actually goes up and down just because of the length of the slide is so short. But now I can't lose the slide off the end. It physically won't go any further without one of these pieces of string breaking. So if I'm going to play anywhere, not that I really would with a piccolo trombone, but if I was going to play in an environment where losing the slide is going to be more distracting than this sound, then this would be a perfect makeshift method. So anyway, this video has hopefully served its point to introduce a method for ensuring that your slide is retained as a component of your instrument and not as a component of the landscape when you are playing your instrument. If you have any further questions, suggestions, comments, please feel free to let me know. I love hearing feedback and hearing what you guys have got to say. Thanks very much.